Blood dripped onto the imported Italian marble, each drop echoing in the vast hall of Amber House. Above, the massive portrait of Hassan Okonkwo seemed to watch with cold eyes as his adopted daughter, Ifunanya, pressed a hand to her bleeding temple. But she wasn't looking at the blood or thinking about the pain. Her eyes were fixed on the safe behind her father's portrait, now open and empty. 20 years of patience, of calculated moves, had led to this moment. As security alarms blared through the building, a small smile played on her lips. "Check your move, Chioma," she whispered. 25 years earlier, in the pulsing heart of Lagos, Hassan and Amara Okonkwo were the undisputed king and queen of luxury jewelry. Their company, Okonkwo Gold, crafted pieces that adorned the necks of presidents' wives and oil moguls' daughters. Their mansion in Ikoyi was a testament to their success, a palace of marble and gold where Lagos elite gathered to make deals and forge alliances. But beneath the glitter of success, Amara Okonkwo carried a deep wound. After 12 years of marriage and countless traditional healers, she remained childless. The whispers at social gatherings cut deep. How can she lead our women's association without a child? Who will inherit the Okonkwo legacy? Then came the day that changed everything. During a charity visit to an orphanage in Enugu, they saw her a small girl with eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Her skin was like marble, patches of vitiligo creating patterns that the orphanage workers called curse, but Amara saw as marks of destiny. The girl's birth name had been lost, so they called her Ifunanya, Love. From the start, Ifunanya showed an extraordinary gift. Her small fingers could tell real gold from fake just by touch, a talent that made Hassan beam with pride. In the workshops, master craftsmen would let her watch as they transformed raw metal into art, teaching her secrets passed down through generations. "She has old souls in her eyes," the head craftsman would say. "The ancestors have blessed her hands." For 7 years, Ifunanya was the light of the Okonkwo mansion. Then came the miracle that would become her curse. Amara fell pregnant. The pregnancy was difficult, and the famous mama from Benin City, who helped deliver the baby, said it would be their only child. They named her Chioma. God is good. The change wasn't immediate. It came like erosion, slowly wearing away at Ifunanya's place in the family. First, it was small things. Her seat at the dining table moved further from Hassan. Her questions about the business met with distracted responses. Her achievements at school overshadowed by Chioma's smallest accomplishments. Chioma, aware of her power from an early age, wielded it like a weapon wrapped in silk. "Ifunanya," she would say sweetly at family gatherings, "why don't you serve the elders? After all, you're so good at serving." The adults would chuckle, missing how the words cut. The final betrayal came during Chioma's 18th birthday celebration at the Eco Hotel and Suites. The event was a spectacle that drew Nigeria's who's who politicians, business tycoons, and even a few minor royals. Chioma wore a stunning creation, the heritage collar featuring rare amber pieces that had been in the Okonkwo family since Hassan's grandfather traded palm oil for them in the 1940s. That night, as music from the live band filled the hall and guests danced to high-life tunes, the heritage collar vanished. Chioma's tears came instantly, her accusations precise. Ifunanya was always jealous, she sobbed to their parents. She kept asking about the amber's history, about its worth. She wanted it for herself. The evidence mounted quickly, too quickly. A duplicate key to the jewelry safe found in Ifunanya's room. A grainy security video showing someone of her build near the hotel's service exit. A distant cousin who swore he'd seen her handling the necklace earlier that evening. Hassan's disappointment was a physical thing, filling his study like smoke as he confronted her. "I gave you everything," he said, his voice heavy with betrayal. "I lifted you from dust, gave you my name, and this is how you repay me? By stealing from your sister." Ifunanya's protest of innocence fell on deaf ears. Even as the police led her away, she saw Chioma watching from behind their mother, a glint of triumph in her eyes that only Ifunanya could see. Kirikiri Women's Prison was a harsh teacher. Gone were the silk sheets and air conditioning of Ikoyi. Here, Ifunanya learned new lessons: how to sleep with one eye open, how to read intentions in the twitch of a hand, how to survive. But her most important teacher was Mama Kemi, an elderly inmate serving a life sentence for killing her abusive husband. Mama Kemi came from a long line of traditional goldsmiths in Ife. At night in their cramped cell, she would tell Ifunanya stories of ancient metallurgy, of how their ancestors learned to turn Earth's metals into objects of power. Gold remembers, she would say, her fingers tracing patterns in the air. Every piece carries the energy of those who shaped it, those who wore it, those who desired it. Under Mama Kemi's guidance, Ifunanya began to transform. Her pain became her forge, her anger the hammer that would shape her revenge. She learned not just about metalcraft, but about power, how to recognize it, how to acquire it, how to wield it. During her 3rd year in prison, Ifunanya received her first and only visitor, Namdi, her father's former head craftsman. He came bearing news that shook her world. Chioma had married Alumai Bakir, son of First Bank's executive director, in a ceremony that made headlines across Nigeria. But it was his next words that truly changed everything. "I saw her, Ifunanya," he whispered across the visiting room table. The night of her engagement, Chioma wore the heritage collar, the same one she claimed he stole. His aged hands trembled as he slid a photograph across the table, grainy, but clear enough to show Chioma wearing the distinctive amber piece at her engagement party. That night, in her cell, Ifunanya laughed until she cried. The sound echoed off the prison walls, causing even the hardened inmates to shiver. It was the laugh of someone who had finally seen the full picture of their destruction and was ready to paint one of their own. When she walked out of Kirikiri 3 months later, Ifunanya was unrecognizable. Gone was the soft-spoken adopted daughter of the Okonkwo's. In her place stood a woman carved from harder stuff, her vitiligo now worn like war paint rather than a curse. Her first stop wasn't Lagos, but Kano, where Mama Kemi's connections led her to master craftsmen who still practiced ancient techniques of metalwork. For 2 years, she learned their secrets, combining traditional methods with modern design. She worked until her hands bled, then worked more. The opportunity she needed came from an unexpected source. One evening, as she studied at a local jewelry workshop, she met Aisha al-Rashid, daughter of a prominent northern family. Aisha was captivated by Ifunanya's unique designs and the stories woven into each piece. More importantly, she saw an opportunity. "My father's looking to diversify," Aisha said over dinner at her family's mansion. "He's interested in luxury goods, but he wants something different. Something that speaks to both tradition and modernity." Within months, backed by al-Rashid millions, Ifunanya launched Amber Soul. Her first collection, Broken Crown, featured pieces that appeared fractured, but were stronger at their broken places, gold veined with amber, traditional coral beads reimagined in contemporary settings. Each piece told a story of resilience, of beauty found in imperfection. The Nigerian fashion world took notice. Vogue Africa featured her work. Orders poured in from across the continent. But Ifunanya's eyes remained fixed on a single goal: the destruction of Okonkwo gold. Her chance came during the Lagos Luxury Fair 5 years after her release. As she walked into the event space at Eco Hotel, whispers followed her like shadows. Her appearance had been carefully crafted. A white designer dress that highlighted her vitiligo, jewelry that showcased her mastery, and a quiet confidence that drew all eyes. Chioma, now head of marketing at Okonkwo Gold, went pale at the sight of her adopted sister. The heritage collar gleamed at her throat as silent accusation. Hassan, now using a walking stick, gripped it until his knuckles went white. "The prodigal daughter returns," Chioma managed, her voice barely steady. Ifunanya's smile was razor sharp. "Prodigal? No, sister. I'm not here to beg for scraps from father's table. I'm here to buy it. The next 6 months became a corporate war that gripped Nigeria's business world. Amber Soul systematically targeted Okonkwo Gold's weaknesses, offering better terms to suppliers, poaching key artisans, securing exclusive rights to premium materials. Each move was calculated to cause maximum damage while appearing purely business-driven. But Ifunanya's true masterstroke came through Oluyemi, Chioma's husband. His bank was facing liquidity problems, and Amber's Soul offered a lifeline with conditions. Soon, Okonkwo Gold's loans were called in, their credit lines restricted. The company began to bleed. Chioma, desperate to save her family legacy, made her final play. She arranged a private meeting with Ifunanya at Amber Soul's headquarters, a stunning tower of glass and gold in Victoria Island. "Name your price," Chioma said, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. "Whatever you want, it's yours. Just stop this." Ifunanya walked to her office window, looking out over Lagos. "Do you remember what you said to me the day I was arrested? You said, 'Don't worry, sister. The truth will set you free.'" She turned, her eyes hard as amber. "Well, here's my truth. I want everything. Your company, your reputation, your peace of mind, just like you took mine. But revenge," Ifunanya would soon learn, was a double-edged sword. As she systematically destroyed the Okonkwo's business empire, she felt no satisfaction, only a deepening emptiness. The victory she dreamed of in her prison cell tasted like ashes in her mouth. The turning point came during a meeting with Chief Okafor, one of Lagos' most respected elders. He had watched the drama unfold from afar and requested to see Ifunanya. As they sat in his traditional compound in Ikoyi, surrounded by ancient African art, he shared a proverb that struck her core. "When you dig a grave for your enemy, dig two. The hatred that destroys them will also destroy you." That same evening, Ifunanya received news that shook her carefully constructed world of revenge. Hassan had suffered a massive stroke. Despite her hatred, her feet carried her to St. Nicholas Hospital. What she found there changed everything. The mighty Hassan Okonkwo lay diminished in his hospital bed, with Amara sleeping fitfully in a chair nearby. But it was the items on his bedside table that caught her crude attempts at jewelry making, twisted pieces of metal and wire. The nurse explained that it was part of his therapy, but one piece made Ifunanya's heart stop. A small, uneven creation that mimicked her first childhood attempt at jewelry making, the one Hassan had kept in his office all those years ago. As she turned to leave, his voice, weak but clear, stopped her. "I knew." The words came with difficulty. "I knew about the necklace. Found it in Chioma's old room. Years ago." Ifunanya froze, her carefully constructed walls cracking. "My pride," Hassan continued, each word a struggle. "Couldn't face what we did to you. Easier to pretend. My greatest shame." But it was his next words that shattered her completely. "Your work at Amber's Soul, magnificent. You are truly my daughter." The dam broke. Years of pain, anger, and loneliness poured out as Ifunanya fell to her knees beside his bed. Hassan's weathered hand found hers, and in that touch, something long broken began to heal. However, Chioma wasn't ready for reconciliation. Threatened by the possibility of losing her position once again, she made a desperate move. Using old connections, she attempted to frame Ifunanya for financial fraud, claiming Amber's Soul was built on illegal money from northern terrorism sponsors. The accusation should have destroyed Ifunanya, but her years in prison had taught her to prepare for betrayal. Every transaction, every deal had been meticulously documented. The evidence she presented didn't just clear her name, it exposed years of corruption within Okonkwo Gold under Chioma's management. The night after the truth came out, Ifunanya found Chioma in their childhood home, sitting in the dark study surrounded by old family photos. For the first time, she saw her sister's armor crack. "I was 7, Chioma whispered, "when I overheard Mother tell Father that you were more talented than me, that you were the natural heir to Okonkwo Gold. I became afraid of being second best in my own family. The necklace, it was just the final move in a game I'd been playing since childhood. Understanding dawned on Ifunanya they had both been prisoners of their own making. One in Kirikiri, the other in a cage of desperate perfection. The solution, when it came, surprised everyone. Instead of destroying Okonkwo gold, Ifunanya proposed a merger. Amber Soul's innovation would combine with Okonkwo Gold's legacy, creating something entirely new, the House of Amber and Gold. The merger launch event became the talk of Lagos. The centerpiece was a stunning new collection called Reconciliation, featuring pieces that combine broken fragments of old Okonkwo pieces with Amber Soul's contemporary designs. The heritage collar was transformed into an installation piece, its broken pieces suspended in resin, a testament to how something shattered could become art. Hassan insisted on attending despite his health, watching with tears in his eyes as his daughters presented their unified vision. The photo of them together, Ifunanya's vitiligo, now prominently featured in their branding, Chioma's perfect pose, softened by genuine emotion, made the cover of several magazines. But the real healing happened in private moments, like when Chioma's daughter, born with vitiligo like her aunt, found in Ifunanya a guide for turning difference into strength. Or when Amara, finally confronting her own role in the past, began volunteering at orphanages, sharing stories of a daughter who rose from tragedy to triumph. Years later, at the opening of their 100th store, a journalist asked Ifunanya about forgiveness. She smiled, touching the new version of the heritage collar at her throat, a piece she and Chioma had designed together, featuring amber fragments held together by gold veins. In our tradition, she said, we believe that gold remembers every hand that shapes it. The same is true of people. We are all marked by those who loved us, those who hurt us, those who shaped us. The art is in learning to make something beautiful from all of it. The security guard's radio crackled again, bringing him back to the present moment. He helped Ifunanya to her feet as she laughed off her fall. Behind them, the portrait of Hassan seemed different now, not judging, but proud. The safe behind it was empty, yes, but only because its contents, the old heritage collar, was being transformed into something new, a piece that would tell the story not of division, but of reunion. As dawn broke over Lagos, Ifunanya stood at her office window, watching the city come alive. On her desk lay the final designs for their new collection, Legacy Reborn. Each piece told a story of transformation, of how family bonds, like the finest metals, could be tested by fire, yet emerge stronger. Of how the things that mark us as different could become our greatest strength. And of how love, like amber, could preserve our hardest moments and turn them into something precious.